Thank you for the shout out to career services.
Yeah.
Which I would just like to add a plug. If you're wondering how to answer the weakness question, I can help you with that. It's a tough question, but there is a way to do that effectively. So with the time we have remaining, I'd like to open it up to questions for all of our panelists.
I just had a general question for all three of you. During your college years, what kind of student organizations and extracurriculars were you a part of or participate in?
I'll go first. So I was an RA for all of my college career, almost all my college career, and then I took leadership opportunities within that in student government and then dorm life government. And that really was a good time for me and to help me not only support myself when I was in college, which shows an employer that you're a hard worker and that you're practical and know what you need to do, but also gave me opportunities to be a leader and work on communication and all that.
And I was with STLF while I was here, and I also did internships. I interned at the Stanley Foundation while I was here for 1 semester, and then I had an internship in Des Moines as well. I wasn't overly involved in a lot of student organizations, to be honest.
Same here, I wasn't really involved in student organizations. I worked at our newspaper. School newspaper is one of the few in the country that is actually funded just by advertisements. Most of the other school papers are funded through the school. So I worked there. We actually got paid like $120 every 2 weeks. Once again for like 10, 12 hours a day. I seem to like low-paying, high-hour jobs. But then again, I don't think necessarily the way I went about it is the right way. I mean, a lot of my career had to do with good timing, networking, generally being nice, not reaching out to people when I wanted to talk to someone, even if they couldn't. I mean, I think, internships are the way to go in terms of experience. Like you said, it's all about experience. Just because you went to, I did a summer abroad in Mexico where I just studied Spanish and hung out and whatnot, which was fun. It was great, but I mean, it's not like I could show an employer other than the fact that I could speak Spanish, which is okay, but still I could have done something else during the study abroad that could differentiate me, because there's so many people who are applying for jobs in international affairs, and they're most likely to be applying to jobs in D.C. There's even more people there that are already based there, so why pick you in Iowa versus some other person in D.C.? So you have to stand out in some way.
That's great. I'm definitely hearing some themes here in terms of gaining experience, the power of timing, which you can't entirely control, but maybe should relieve you of some of the constant stress of thinking you have to have it all figured out, as well as the power of networking to reveal some of those opportunities. Other questions for our panelists? Yeah.
I'm currently in the process of deciding whether I want to go to professional school after this or actually go out into the workforce. I noticed that none of you guys really did anything, or you have your bachelor's at least, but can you kind of speak about when you graduated, what kind of went through your head for that, if it did?
I'll go. Well, after I lost my job a month ago, I had a freak-out moment where I was like, grad school, let's do that. But I had to take a breather there. Grad school, I think experience is key, especially working in refugee resettlement, because, or maybe any social service, as long as it doesn't necessarily require an MSW, because it is about your ability to relate to people, and it is about your ability to develop relationships with somebody, or with a client, with an agency. So if you have the ability and the tenacity and, kind of just get out there and do it, I have found that, a lot of people in the field, especially, don't even necessarily have their bachelor's because they have the skills that they need to do the actual work.
I would just say it depends on the master's or whatever program you're looking into, because if I can just speak for my company, but if someone were applying for like a case manager job at my company and they had a master's, they would pretty much be overqualified. Mm-hmm. So it depends on what you want to do. Just make sure that plan really makes sense. But I am all for more education. I say go for it.
Yeah, I echo that. It depends on what. I mean, the problem is today, almost everything. When I was looking to move, almost every job required a master's degree. What I said earlier just seems so right that the bachelor's degree today is the high school diploma of our parents. I mean that's an issue, but I mean I was ready to get out of school and I wanted to start my life, so to speak. So I don't want to immediately go to grad school. I wanted to work for a few years, and usually if you work for a few years, then that obviously makes you more what's the word, competitive for a good grad school program and for a fellowship, because grad school is ridiculously expensive. It's like 60 grand a year for a really top flight one. I mean, not including living costs. If you don't have to pay for grad school, you can get a fellowship because you work for a few years. And then also the important thing is just what you like today might not be what you like in 5 years. Getting to know yourself is an important part of doing what you want to do. I wanted to do journalism since I was 15, and then it changed. So it's something to keep in mind.
Any questions?
Yeah. I know, Jack, you mentioned finding a mentor in your career. For all of you, how did you foster that relationship with a mentor? What was most beneficial in that? Can you kind of speak towards mentorship relationships? If you had it.
I worked closely with our headquarters in DC. I kind of took on, there's only 6 of us that were on staff at USCRI, 5 full-time, 1 part-time. So it was a very small organization, so I had to assume a lot of leadership roles anyway. And I kind of wanted to develop sort of the relationship more with our headquarters, and whether that be financial, which I have not taken math since high school, but I had to kind of assume that role as well, as kind of like, well, how do I manage our budget here? So I really kind of connected with the right person at headquarters who could kind of help me along, and they're in DC, but we did it via email, via phone, and it ended up really well. I learned a lot just by contacting those people at our headquarters organization that could kind of lead me where I needed to go.
I would say just listen when they talk. You're going to have a mentor.
I just did whatever they said. Go above and beyond. If your boss is there at 10 o'clock at night and you could be helpful and you stay. It's all about building trust with that person. It depends on the type of person, but you're obviously not going to try to have a mentor who's a complete dick, or she's a complete dick. Too. And I guess some of it's luck too, running into the right person. I'm trying to think about.
Yeah. So Jack, you said you reached out to a lot of people and you would just email anyone you're interested in talking with. Did you ever have a negative experience with that, and how did you handle that if they didn't respond to you?
Most of the people, if they don't want to respond, they just won't respond. I mean, they just, delete your email. I mean, I've done that too. It depends on professionalism. If someone's like, tell me about the job, like you mentioned, that shows that they haven't even read the job description, and that's kind of upfront. But if people are humble and really want to know things, and the way you write it shows that you're generally interested, and you're not just it's not just a mass email they send out to 20 people. That's always a good thing. Sorry, what was your second point?
How did you deal with it if they responded badly?
I only had one guy do it to my face. We went out. It was this British journalist. He later died in a plane crash. But we were at a bar. He just laid in. I was 22, 23, and just laid into me for being such a young. The word he used very much. It rhymes with punt. And he just kept calling me that the whole night. For some reason, I sat there and we drank really heavily. And he just said, you don't deserve to be here. You're so young. Why are you here? Blah blah. And some people are like that. So we were just dicks. Especially when you're young and you're just figuring things out and learning the cues. At some point they were young, naive people. It was great because the next day I went to my boss Andy. I was like, this guy chewed me out and whatnot. And he was like, Jack, if you weren't a little bit naive at 22 or 23, then something would be wrong with you. So.
Yeah, if I can just put in a plug, I think, for the most part, experiences are positive when I coach students on networking and reaching out to even people they don't know. But, it's no worse. Hearing no is no worse than not asking. You're in the same place, and you're going to hear yes, but only if you ask. So, yeah, there's a question over here.
So it sounds like all of you studied language at some point. Do you have any advice for seeking jobs where you can use language skills, or how to go about that? I mean, some of you use it in your career already, but...
I studied Arabic here, and that's a very hard language, and I don't remember much of it. I took Spanish in high school. But one of the things that helped me a lot, necessarily the Arabic, like fluent or anything like that, but even just simple words and simple phrases they really do go a long way, especially when you're working with a population that's very underserved or is easily manipulated by other people.
You don't all have to respond. You only have to respond if you feel so moved.
I think a second language will always make you more employable for sure. So if you're asking how to get more experience with that, I think you can volunteer at campus places, in like the City Corolla area, get more experience that way. And then they're eligible. If you speak Spanish and you want a job in the summer, Proteus always hires summer migrant helpings, and they always have a blast. But yeah, it's really good to have a second language.
Yeah, or 2 or 3, or as many as you can learn theoretically. I mean, French and Spanish you'll probably learn pretty easily. And the best thing is just talk to native speakers. Working, if you want to work in that language, it's a lot different. When I moved to Colombia, I had to learn to say credit default swap in Spanish, which was, there were all these professional words I never learned when I was in college. So that's, looking at professional dictionaries too, just in case you have to actually work in a professional environment in the language, as opposed to, anything else. But, as many as you can take, I wish I'd taken French and studied abroad in a French-speaking country, as well as Spanish-speaking country, because you have to live there to learn the language.
We have time for one more question. Carmen.
Laura, could you tell us about your internship at the Stanley Foundation?
Yeah, that was in 2009, I think. Yeah. I, it was kind of that was on a whim as well. I saw that it was posted, it was sent out through the listserv here, and I had no car. I had no way to get to Muscatine. But I kind of decided that I wanted to do it, and found a way to get there. There was a staff member there at the time who lived in Iowa City, and I went every Friday and then worked there for 8 hours, and it was paid, which was wonderful. But I learned a lot, not only about being an intern. That was my first internship experience. Of course, I did some of the grunt work. But I had the ability and the opportunity to use my journalism skills as well. So I helped put together some of the DVD programming. I think it was on nuclear proliferation at the time. And I had the opportunity to write some blurbs for the newsletter. And I really got to, I had reading assignments from different books. So I kind of, Muscatine, it's a very small city, but they're doing such great work all over the world, and people were coming and going from Kazakhstan at the time, and I was like, wow, from the Quad City Airport, really? But they all seemed to be very knowledgeable at what they were doing, and that was a great environment to be around, because it kind of gave me something to strive for. And even though I didn't go into nuclear or anything, I went into refugees. Resettlement, it was still a great experience because it gave me that sort of international flair that was in Iowa.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, I would encourage you all to seek internships through the newsletter that Allie and Carmen send out, and also through the Career Center and other networks, and people that you meet and interact with at Iowa and elsewhere. On a final note, in your packet that you received when you came in, there's a program evaluation. We'd very much appreciate it if you took a few minutes now to fill that out and turn it in where Allie is, waving on your way out. If you're here with CDE for Advantage Iowa credit, be sure to fill out the additional evaluation from them and sign in over there. Also next to Allie. Thank you again. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Perhaps they